call to order the meeting of Monday, April the 27th. If the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Amos.
Present.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lewandowski. Councilmember Ruiz.
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of April the 13th. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashford. Is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there any additions, deletions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand as submitted. We have one presentation tonight. If the clerk would please read that.
Proclamation recognizing Saturday, May 9th as National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive Day will be presented to Chelly Cross.
Is Shelley here? Or anybody from the letter carriers? Do you want to?
Accept it on her behalf and give it to her.
Thank you. You want to come to the podium? I will read it. And Dick Cummings will accept this. Whereas the National Association of Letter Carriers, in conjunction with the United States Postal Service, will again sponsor a nationwide one-day food drive on Saturday, May 9th, to help provide nutritional assistance to those who would otherwise be hungry. And whereas over the last 21 years, Local 529 letter carriers collected a total of 1,122,102 pounds of non-perishable food donations, which were distributed and used locally by the Blue Water Community Food Depot and the Soup Kitchen. And whereas the annual food drive is carried out completely by a volunteer effort and supported by friends at the United Way of St. Clair County, the AFL-CIO, and in conjunction with the letter carriers of the United States Postal Service, and whereas the Port Huron City Council appreciates their efforts and is proud to recognize the dedication exhibited by those involved with this food drive and extend our commendations. Now therefore I, Pauline M. Rep, by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Port Huron, and on behalf of Council Members Amos, Archibald, Ashford, Harris, Lewandowski, and Ruiz, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 9th as National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive Day in the City of Port Huron, and call upon all citizens to join with letter carriers in working to aid those in need in our community by participating in the annual food drive by placing non-perishable food items beside their mailboxes on Saturday, May the 9th. There you go. And
Thank
this,
you.
are you?
Yes, I am.
You want to say anything?
Go ahead.
We just wanted to thank the city for the continued support in our effort. Last year, we did collect over 76,000 pounds of food for our local food banks. So once again, we just really appreciate the support with this.
Oh, you're
If the
welcome.
city could assist us by turning up the weather a little bit, it'd be nice.
That would help too.
Thank you all for participating, but people will get it out there by their mailbox early Saturday morning.
Right.
We'll pick it up, and countywide, even the rural carriers are out there picking it up too, so whatever anybody can do, we appreciate it. It's interesting, the statistics still show in the country that 1 out of 6 people in the greatest country in the world we live in is still going to bed hungry at night, so it is important everybody do a little bit what they can. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mayor Rep, are there any restrictions on the types of food?
We try not to get glass bottles, but it could be like cereal boxes or anything, canned soup and things like that.
It's non-perishable, basically.
Non-perishable, right.
Non-perishable, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mayor
you.
Rep.
We will move on to public hearings.
Number 1 is to hear comments on the establishment of an obsolete property rehabilitation act district for the property at 609 Huron Avenue. Following the hearing, council will consider a resolution to establish the district.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to public hearing number 1? Seeing no one, I'll declare public hearing number 1 closed and ask for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Is there discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Amos.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Number 2, please.
Is to hear comments on the application for an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate for 609 Huron Avenue for 6 years. Following the hearing, council will consider a resolution to approve the application.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to public hearing number 2? Seeing no one, I'll declare public hearing number 2 closed and ask for a motion to approve the application.
So move.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashford. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Amos. Is there discussion?
Yes,
Yes, Councilmember.
not for my benefit, but for the benefit of those. What are the benefits of establishing? I know it does list it in the paperwork, but I just think that we ought to add something to that.
I think Ms. Armour can
Yeah,
answer
like-
that for us.
You know, we know what we know up here, we get it, but others don't get it as to why we're establishing this district.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor and council members. In an OPRA project, which is an obsolete property designation, it allows us to do a lot of different things. One of them that we've been very successful with in the downtown area is to take buildings that for some time have been vacant. They're functionally obsolete. The structure itself is sound. The interior, though, because of the vacancy that they've undergone, requires a lot of repair. And to go in and put it back to the way it was, or to use it again in a retail or commercial type setting, it's really not financially feasible. There's a lot of elements that are missing, usually mechanical systems, insulation, code requirements, that type of thing. The functionally obsolete allows us to declare it functionally obsolescence, send it to the state for their review and approval, and then basically what we do is we freeze the property taxes as existing for a period of 6 years. This provides an incentive for an investor, and then in this case, such as Mr. and Mrs. Witt and the family, to come in, make the renovations. They'll make somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000 worth of renovations. They'll take an empty building that's been vacant for some time. They'll create commercial and retail space on the first floor, and then they'll develop 6 quality lofts on the second and third floor and generate not only activity in the commercial and retail end of it, but also provide another opportunity for residential in our downtown. And it's at, of course, the Citadel Mall, which is one of the key anchor buildings, I believe, in our downtown. So by simply freezing the property taxes as is for a period of 6 years, it provides an incentive for an investment that we probably never would see in a normal situation in that type of a facility.
Okay, and there is also probably a likelihood for jobs in that
Absolutely.
area?
There'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 construction jobs related to the activity, and then afterwards with the retail and commercial, you'll see somewhere between 5 to 10 jobs. And then again, not to mention the advantage of having 6 new lofts in the downtown area that individuals will be living in, walking the streets of our downtown, and patronizing other businesses downtown and activities.
Okay. And then also, Kim, after the, what is it, 6 years? Okay, then they have to recertify, or what's that process?
No, actually, what happens is,
happens?
after 6 years, the 7th year, the taxes will go and they'll be reevaluated based on the value, the current value then of the building.
Oh, okay.
And reassessed. So the city will see an increase, if you will, in property taxes. And of course, all the while, we're receiving the same base tax on the land. And we're also receiving income tax from the individuals that are working in the retail compartment and also from the residents of the lofts.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Rupp.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. We'll take the vote now.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. We'll move on to public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening, you can come to the podium, give us your name, and you have 4 minutes.
Hi, Michelle Witt. It won't take me 4 minutes. I just wanted to thank the council for the help that they're giving us with this project and what they've given us in the past. So,
Well, we
Steve-
thank you for the investment you've made.
He's homesick, so he says thank you too. But so, yes, just a big thank you for you guys for the help that you've given us.
You're welcome, entirely. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening?
My name's Danielle Hudson, and I'm a resident at 1719 Chestnut Street. I received in my mailbox on Friday, now bear with me because I didn't prepare anything, so, but I received in my mailbox from the Building Inspection Division a notice about improper storage of a boat. I've lived at that residence for 17 years. Out of those 17 years, at least 12 of those years, I've owned a boat and had it stored on my property. I have a driveway that is cement, and I was told, according to this code, I would have to put my boat in my backyard, if it's available. I cannot get my boat into my backyard without airlifting it in. So my only other option is, and still according to the code, would be to put it in my side yard. They were telling me that because my side yard is paved as a driveway, I can't put it there without it being under 48 hours. We're talking about a boat that cannot be seen from the street. However, I was still cited on it. Today, because I got this Friday afternoon, or Friday in my mail, today I tried to contact the office. I was put on hold. I was then directed that I wasn't going to be able to speak to someone until between 1 and 2 o'clock when the gentleman was in. He did finally call me back, but said that he couldn't do anything for me and that I would have to speak to someone, Ms. Kim Harmer, which I called, left messages for. They told me I would receive a return phone call today, and I did not. So I'm not real sure on why, after living there for 17 years, I'm having this type of issue. It's not a blight issue. It's not seen from the road. I was told also that if it were grass or dirt in that side yard, I could leave my boat there. But because it's a nice paved area for a boat, I can't have that there because it's in front of a garage that makes it a parking space.
Probably no one has noticed it maybe in those years, but somebody might have called in a complaint, and I don't know that, but
I was told that
it is
no one-
against the ordinance to do that.
Okay,
But
so what makes it against the ordinance? Because I'm reading the ordinance, and it states that it can be placed in a side yard. There's nothing that says that the side yard cannot have pavement in it.
Well, Ms. Harmer is here tonight. I don't know if she wants to take a moment out in the hallway and talk to you about it or not, or if she's familiar with it, and she will call you tomorrow, or Mr. Freed will call you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we'll make contact with you tomorrow. I don't have your specific case
Well, and I'll tell you
information.
also, on my notice, it says that someone will be back out to check on or before May 1st. Usually it's on or after May 1st, but, so that means that at any time they could come and give me a citation, is that correct?
Let's, again, I don't know the specifics of your case. Let's let the process work. Tomorrow, we'll get a hold of you, and we can talk to the code enforcement officer, whoever wrote you the
But
citation.
isn't the process to then cite me?
I don't have your specific case. I don't know what it was written under, so I don't feel compelled to say either way until I look at your specific details.
Thank you for
I
your time.
have faith in the process, so.
Are you available for a phone call tomorrow, then?
Yes, I am. I was available all afternoon. I was available all day. And unfortunately, like I said, I've been here for 17 years, and I've never had this type of issue. I've always stood behind everything, I'm one of the people who actually vote for you people. So, and to have this type of, if you drive down, I have pictures, I'm like, really, how did they even see this? Why is this an issue? And it just shouldn't be. When I drive by things, and I'm thinking, why is this in building and inspection? If you want to say that my boat's ugly, then it could be a blight issue, but it's not an ugly boat, and it shouldn't be a building and inspection issue because it doesn't have anything to do with building and inspection. So, it's just, I was calmed down, and then I calmed myself down on Friday afternoon, and I gave myself the whole weekend, and then the runaround today when basically they continue to not make any sense. You have to move it to your side yard. That is my side yard. So just because it's a pretty side yard that has nice cement and a nice garage on it. Basically, they told me my options were to tear down my garage, replant dirt there, and some grass. That would make it, return it to a side yard.
Oh, wow.
Not something I'd be willing to do.
Well, they will get a hold of you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening?
Madam Mayor, City Council, and City Manager. My name is Sharon Bender. I live on South Boulevard in Port Huron, and I was not able to attend the meeting when you discussed the DDA funding. And I wanted to bring to your attention, I was a member of that original group that was part of the DDA, part of the Main Street when it was established. And in talking about the sidewalks and the curb and the walkways, and in talking about the plantings, one of the things that we originally discussed with regard to that brickwork was that it would be a tripping hazard. When looking outside now, we can see what happens after deterioration of brickwork. I would recommend strongly that you put in cement in the walkways of our downtown. I do not think you should spend more money to go into brickwork again. And the issue with regard to the plantings, originally, we talked about plantings that were native grasses, which would not have required upkeep the way that flower plantings do. So those are all things that will cut per costs in terms of maintenance people having to maintain those, or beautification commission people being spread too thin. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening? Seeing no one, I'll declare public comment closed, and we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Ashford. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. The items on the consent agenda, approved a scheduling of a public hearing on May 11 for the tentative budget of the Port Huron Downtown Development Authority for fiscal year 2015-16, and on the proposed capital improvement program, and approve the contract with Michigan Department of Transportation for the Sanborn Street reconstruction work from Stone to Gratiot Avenue, rescinding Resolution 15-040 due to an incorrect project description. Approving the appointment of Mary Jo Edson as a life member of the Beautification Commission. Approving the reappointment of Donna Kelly and Stephanie Romales, and the appointment of Nicole Hutchinson to the Beautification Commission for terms to expire January 30th, 2018, and appointing Sally Jett to fill a vacancy with a term to expire January 30th, 2017. And also a resolution as requested by Councilmember Harris, which was to encourage the Michigan Amateur Hockey Association to hold the 2016 District 5 playoffs in Port Huron. And we'll move on now then to, from the city manager, number 1.
Is approving the bid from George Contupis Painting Company in the amount of $211,000 for the painting of the north elevated water storage tank.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashford. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rep,
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
how often do we have to paint this water tower?
Mayor Rep and council members, we inspect the water towers on a regular basis, and typically it's in the 12 to 14-year range. It's evaluated. We determine how much work needs to be done. Sometimes it's just a recoating. Sometimes there's some metal that needs to be replaced. We install new cathodic protection because the cathodic protection only lasts so many years, and that preserves the metal in the tank, and the painting of the tank preserves the tank, and also assists us with keeping the water as safe as possible.
Thank you.
Any other, yes, go ahead, Councilmember Ashford.
I think you did answer my question. It's not just painting. There could be other implications as a result of that, and checking that as far as corrosion or something of that nature.
Yes, of course, these are steel structures.
Right.
And when the inspection is done, they look for section loss in the steel, and anywhere where it needs to be built back up is taken care of. They look at hatches, they look at seams, and any work that needs to be done to assure that we can preserve the structure.
Okay.
Is that me?
I don't know, no one seems to be touching their mic, so I'm not sure.
But technical difficulties. Okay.
Yes, so we we take care of, we inspect the stairs, everything on the structure, and if there's anything that needs to be repaired, we repair it as part of the painting contract.
Okay, and that might be a MIOSHA call also
Yes.
on this. so
Certainly, part of
that's
the
a-
inspections look
Right.
for safety for our employees and access.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor Rep.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mayor Rep, I guess mine's not a question. To the naked eye, it looks pretty good shape and stuff, and it's hard to convince myself and people that, we need to spend a fifth of $1 million on something. Of course, it could have been more with the other bidders, but,
Well, yeah, it's 211,000.
211.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a significant expense, that's true, but it's elevated tanks at 500,000 gallons. They're doing interior, exterior work. You don't see the interior work, but it's important to preserving the quality of the water to make certain it's available for our residents.
any experience with this company, being they were half the price of some of them?
Yes, we're familiar, and the consultant we use to do these have worked with them in the past.
Councilman Harris, I have also personally worked with this company on 2 occasions, both in my previous jobs, on the exact same scope of work. Excellent work.
Any other questions for Mr. Clegg? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Amos.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Number 2.
Is accepting the bid from Flexi Liner Corporation in the amount of $7,500 for installation of a liner in one of the existing sodium hypochlorite tanks at the water filtration plant.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Amos, is there discussion?
Yes, Mayor Rep.
Yes, Councilmember Ashford.
What is the functionality of this liner, and if it's, what were the repercussions if we did not replace it?
Mayor Rep and council members, these hypo tanks, the cost to install, purchase a tank, do all the plumbing and install them is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. The current tank is leaking slightly. It's a fiberglass type tank.
Oh, okay.
And it's been in place some number of years. We're very fortunate with the city of Port Huron in that our own staff installed them. We had to buy them. They come disassembled. They had to be put together. All the plumbing was done by our in-house staff. They did an excellent job. But by expending, while a significant amount of money, we can save a lot more money than by ignoring it at this time. We're starting to see a little leak, especially around the valvings and some of the seams. And this lining process is a process that we've done with some other tanks, and we get excellent longevity at a very low cost.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor Rep.
Thank you. There's no other discussion, we will take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Amos.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 3.
Is accepting the bid from D. Kramer Incorporated in the amount of $39,430 for building ductwork at the wastewater treatment plant.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Amos, is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there discussion?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Why are we doing this now? When you're talking about drainage and stuff, I know you probably had to wait, or why is it now?
Mayor Up and council members, the ductwork, this is part of the ductwork for the odor control system at the wastewater treatment plant.
The odor control?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And when we originally installed the odor control system, we installed some new piping, and we left piping behind. The piping that we left behind is finally aging to a point it's time to start replacing it. So we've been doing it in sections instead of all at once. And you may ask why. Well, because quite frankly, we're trying to reduce the financial impact of doing this kind of work by distributing over multiple years. And so, for example, in this particular case, we had estimated and budgeted $60,000 to do this year's of work, which is primarily some elbows and so on that pass through the walls and allow us to collect the odor and get it to the odor control system. And as you can see, through very competitive bidding, we're able to do this at a much lower cost.
Okay. So we haven't had to do any remodifications on the prior pieces you put in? So
No, the pieces we installed, I think it was in 2005 or 6, I believe, when we put in the odor control system the same time we increased the capacity to store biosolids, because the increased capacity to store biosolids increased the amount of odor that would be generated. So we put in a new odor control system as part of that project. We had to do some new duct work, but use some existing duct work, and we're just picking away at that existing duct work over the years.
biting a little bit at a time, cost effective. Thank you
You're welcome.
very much.
Does anyone
Thanks.
else have any questions? Yes, Councilmember
I guess
Harris.
just one concern that I had is the last time we had ductwork, it, basically, we had to authorize a change order for almost 100%. And I just don't want to see this $39,000 turned into $50,000.
Yeah, and I think that was very unfortunate, and it goes back to what I'm talking about, trying to do this thing in stages. And because we're trying to reduce the financial impact. In that particular case, we started working in one area and another area failed immediately. So we couldn't ignore the failure, but we're picking away at it, and again, it's a cost-effective way to do it.
Any other questions for Mr. Clegg? Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's no other discussion, we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Item 4.
Is accepting the proposal from Simtech Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $12,250 for conversion of the police department's current records to the new Clemis Data Records Management System.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz, is there discussion?
Yes, Mayor Rupp.
Yes, Councilmember Ashford.
I see here that the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department also is using the same system. Did we go over there and view that for any pitfalls? Hey, you want to shake my hand too? Okay. Yeah. Just-
Council members,
Yeah.
City Manager Freed, this is a joint project not only with the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department and the Port Huron Police Department, but we were able to convince 8 out of the 9 law enforcement agencies in St. Clair County to also switch over to this system.
Oh.
This is a system we told you about last fiscal year that we've been slowly trying to
It's keeping you up at night.
go towards. There's been a lot of issues in terms of getting all the moving parts collectively going in the same direction, but I think we're there. This piece of it is taking records management data that we've stored in the system that's currently in use for 4 years and converting that data over to the new system. And you might ask why that's important. That data is, we need on a daily basis, we search that data on a daily basis, but also to do FOIAs and court work and other things, it's imperative that we have access to the data from the past historical years. An example of how that might be used is in CAD, if there was information on a house where somebody had an illness and couldn't come to the door in terms of a fire, that data, historical data, would be important to have at the time the call was dispatched, so people would know that type of stuff. So that's one reason why you'd want that data. This is a very, very economical price for data. The first price that we received from an outside company, this is from a vendor of Clemis, was well over $100,000. And we went back to the drawing board and said, hey, Clemis, this is the data that we need. Can we find another way to do this? If you look at the proposal, our portion is basically, we took the total amount of years, which is 14 years. We divided the amount of the cost, and it turned out to be $3,000 a year. So the Port Huron Police pays for their 4 years, and another $250 was for the data from our property room. We share that with the Drug Task Force, the data, not the property room itself, but the data. So our total cost was $12,250, and that is funds that are budgeted.
Well, I think it is well worthy of that 12,000, but I guess and that was also, as you said, one of your goals that you're knocking out the park. What is the estimated time of completion for the conversion?
Last February 8th, I think?
No, like yesterday, huh?
No, I'm talking 2014. We've run into some issues with connectivity with the county. City Manager Freed got involved with that, and we were able to, the City of Port Huron and St. Clair County basically undertook the connectivity issue to help the number of smaller municipalities in the county. That was resolved. There's been a lot of different moving pieces by different organizations. AT&T was involved, Oakland County. We're very close to this. I hope to have us up and running in a trial period here within May.
In May?
So we're very close.
Oh, okay. And so-
It'll really bring St. Clair County, but Port Huron Police Department into this century. We're operating currently with records management system that's late 1970s.
What? Oh.
So this will modernize your records management and our capabilities and be able to do stuff from the cars and everything else. So this is a real big deal.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Mayor.
Anybody else have any questions for the chief? I think you about answered everything. Thank you. If there's no other discussion, we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Mayor Rupp?
Yes. Item 5.
Is accepting the bid from Bandit Industries Incorporated in the amount of $27,900 for a stump grinder machine for use by the Forestry Division in accordance with the State of Michigan My Deal Extended Purchasing Program.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rapp,
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
I'd like to speak against the motion for, first, the reason we entered into a 3-year contract last year with a company to do timber tree service to do stump removal for the city of Port Huron. The other issue I have with moving this forward is we're going to, Mr. Freed's going to put on a presentation in the next month. We're going to ask our city employees to do more for less, and I think that if anything, this should be deferred to after our next budget meeting or the budget for 15-16 is finalized.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'd like to have our legal counsel give us a quick update on that contract we currently have, as well as Nancy, if you could further explain, well, Nancy, first, if you could explain to the mayor and council what exactly our plan is, and then Todd, if you could answer any questions regarding the contract and our commitment to that contract.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council, this is to purchase, as you said, a stump grinder due to grind the stumps in the city. Currently, as you said, we have a contract with Timbers, an outside contractor, and we did that last year. As we're looking at more cost savings in the city, we've tasked our division to look at ways to save money and be more efficient. We have a new parks director, as you know, and we're talking with our tree crew. We believe that we can save money. We're averaging in the last 5 years, yearly, $19,000 a year in stump grinding. This, to buy this product is $27,000. The other problem we have is our guys go out, cut the trees down. We have over 25,000 trees that we know, so we find a diseased tree, we cut the tree down, and from there, the guys leave, we give a list to the contractor, and then they come and do our list. And from there, then the guys come back, they fill it with dirt, they put seed, they grass. Now, just listening to the staff and to our new director, he's saying, with something, it'd be easier if we could just grind the stump on site, fill the hole, put seed in it. We will still keep the current contract with Timbers, and in the event that there was trees that we could not do for some reason, then they would be the people that we'd go to. We just feel that it would be a cost savings to the city Because obviously, spending that kind of money a year, our guys feel that they can do it while they're on the job. So that's why we're asking for this today.
Mayor Rep.
Yes.
So the thought process that was explained to me was you're already sending a crew from forestry out there to chop the tree down. And then they return their entire crew and then have to come back at a later date to fill it with soil and seed. Our forestry department has informed us that they believe that this should be a one-stop shop. They can go there, chop the tree down, remove the stump, and soil and seed it in the same event. So they're not having to send a crew back out there. So one, it will be cost saving from doing this process ourselves, and two, you're also saving from having to mobilize the crew again to go back out there and seed and soil the site. So we do believe it's an efficiency. We do believe that it will pay for itself, probably return on investment within 2 to 3 years. And so, Mr. Shouty, you can talk to our ability with the contract. We have leverage with that contract to do this.
If you look at the, I haven't seen the contract recently, but I had some language read to me from the contract. And one of the changes we made a few years ago in these standard contracts was, from a legal standpoint, I always want us to have the ability, if we want to make a change or we want to go in a different direction, to include language that gives us the right to do that, basically on a go-forward basis. And so this contract has that language that gives us the right to terminate the contract at any time. Most of these contracts anyway are not an exclusive contract where you guarantee a contractor that they're going to get every, stump removal that you have. Most of them are, if we call you, we pick when and where. If we call you, this is the price that we'll pay you if you come out and do it. And that's the way most of these are written. I didn't go back and look at this one, but it does have the language that we put in there. So one way or another, we're protected on that if we decide to do some of this stuff in-house, and that's fairly common on these contracts.
So we won't owe them anything if we didn't call them? There's no...
Correct.
No minimum amount or anything like that?
Right, and if there's a dispute about that, we can immediately terminate the contract and then negotiate a new one, or rebid the services.
One of the things we tasked our division heads with, the department heads did, was to find cost savings. And the boots on the ground tell us that this is a cost saving that they believe they can bring to fruition. And, sometimes we have to defer to the judgment of the people who actually do the work, who actually know the day-to-day processes if they believe that they can do this. I've yet to have an employee ask for a job that they couldn't do. And so, I have to believe that our forestry division is capable, and they think they can produce savings for us.
Yes, Councilmember Ashford.
So will they need training?
No, the
Nancy?
gentlemen that are in our division are very used to
Familiar
using
with
this
the
type of
equipment?
equipment, yes.
Oh, okay.
Mayor Rep?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Nancy, with our reduced staffing, do they have the time to take on that additional work without overtime?
Yes, they're just, while they're on site, they've assured me that they will, grind the stump right after and then finish the job and be done, move on to the next site. They feel like it's more work to kind of keep coming back to all these different areas.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, Mr. Freed.
One last thing would be the customer service aspect of it. Currently, when we chop down a tree in a resident's yard in the road right away, that tree stump could sit there for months, weeks or months.
And it's no fault of the contractors if we wait to give them a list of the stumps when we have a pile of them.
Because we have to assess them and measure
Yep.
them before we call the contractor out. So really, for a customer service aspect as well, the residents are getting that stump removed sooner than later.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. If there's no other discussion, we will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
No.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. It does pass. We'll move on to, we'll move on to resolutions. Number 1.
Is approving the scheduling of a public hearing for May 11th, 2015, to hear comments on the tentative 2015-2016 budget.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashford. Is there support? Yeah, at this point, Mr. Freed would like to give a quick presentation on the budget that we're going to be holding a public hearing on.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Before I begin, I would like to thank our finance team, our finance director, Ed Brennan, and his staff for a job well done and pulling together the proposed budget you have in front of you. I also want to thank the department heads who showed the leadership to take a scalpel to their budget and to help tighten the belt and to reduce the size of government. We have been facing some significant challenges and headwinds, and we wanted to address those and be proactive. The theme of our budget process has been for the next generation, and that's really what this budget's about. So I'd like to walk you through the highlights of I won't go into too much detail tonight, but I will entertain the highlights of the budget so that when you take your document home and review it, you'll have at least a little bit insight of where our thought process was. Despite the reductions already made in this current fiscal year, 4 full-time positions citywide in the last budget year, initial expenditures request and revenue estimates for this coming year, our expenditures would exceed our revenues by more than $1 million. The positions we included this past fiscal year included an inspection clerk, cashier, a firefighter, and the secretary in the fire department's office. To begin closing the budget gap in the coming fiscal year, 6 additional positions have been eliminated in this budget, including 5 firefighters, moving us from 39 to 34, the executive assistant to the city manager. We will be using early retirement incentives to speed up attrition and not layoffs. So nobody is going to be losing their job. Many people ask, why do we do early retirement instead of layoffs? And the fact is simple. We need to protect our fire department. We need to protect the talent and the next generation of that fire department. And by not using layoffs, we're able to keep the next generation of that fire department. I think it's important that as we move through these difficult times, that we do so in a way that continuously thinks about the future and to protect our professional career firemen and women. And so that is why we're using early retirement incentives. The elimination of these 6 positions in the upcoming budget is estimated to save $600,000 in salaries and wages. Citywide, we will continue reduction in overtime. That will save the general fund an additional $140,000 a year through salaries and benefits. $75,000, which is typically budgeted for capital improvements to McMorran, have been cut. $25,000 in capital improvements to Parks and Recreation have also been cut. That will be offset by the private investments being made at Lakeside Park this year. These include further reduction of the city workforce during the upcoming year through attrition. We believe that there are other positions that will be up for retirement, and we believe when those positions come available, we will assess them. Now that code enforcement has a formal structure in place and processes in place, we will move code enforcement back in under the planning department, allowing us to put an additional police officer on the street that oversaw code enforcement. As employees retire, each position will be assessed to determine whether duties can be contracted out, spread to other employees, or done with part-time staffing. The 2015-2016 budget incorporates a major emphasis on fiscal responsibility in the general fund and all city funds. Some of the highlights: the current fiscal year budget included transfers of $340,000 from the land purchase fund and $230,000 use of fund balance. That's $570,000 of essentially subsidies to the general fund to make it balance. The upcoming proposed budget you have before you is balanced, truly balanced, without using any fund balance or subsidy. Over $1 million is scheduled in capital improvements in the general fund this coming year, have dedicated funding sources. That being $675,000 of Parks and Recreation projects being funded by a combination of county parks millage, DNR grant, and private funding and donors, such as Lakeside Park. $380,000 in MOC capital improvements are being financed by funds previously set aside in the land purchase fund for that purpose. That includes rehabilitating the elevators that are original to the building and security upgrades for broken cameras and broken security measures we have throughout the building. General fund expenditures, if you notice, in 2015 and 16, every single department has reduced government spending. In Parks and Recreation, it's reduced by almost $10,000. It doesn't show up there in the margin of error. but every single government fund in the general government has been reduced. Subtracting out your total operating without capital improvement, almost $1 million in reductions. And the capital improvements we do have scheduled are done through dedicated funding sources, not non-discretionary revenue. And this is the revenue sources for your general fund as well. Revenue of $21.5 million. Moving on to the rubbish and garbage collection. Property tax revenue began declining in 2008 and 2009 following the crisis of the housing and mortgage markets. Current operations would result in a deficit of approximately $240,000 in the upcoming fiscal year, with current tax revenues as the only source of funding. Cash reserves in the fund, which were $1.5 million fund balance in 2008, would be completely depleted by the end of the next fiscal year. The operational deficit would climb to $350,000 annually at the current rate of the contract expires in 2018, meaning if we do nothing, we will have a deficit of $350,000 and no fund balance to cover it. Without additional revenue, bulk, leaf, and yard waste pickup and recycling would need to be eliminated to make that fund self-sufficient. To address this in your budget, I propose a $35 annual fee per residence being proposed in order to maintain our current bulk and leaf, yard and waste, and recycling services. There would be no cuts in services. That would be billed at the same time as the taxes. Other highlights, $1.1 million loan repayment has been received to the loan revolving fund. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, has put strict restrictions on these funds. We propose that $350,000 is being proposed for housing improvements and Pioneer Home Buying Program to help more people own their home than be renters. And $750,000 will be budgeted to be used to reconstruct downtown parking lots that support the downtown businesses and lofts. Contributions from the DDA and the Main Street TIF of $100,000 and $50,000 respectively will also be used for parking lot reconstruction projects. The proposed budget includes a $500,000, $500,000 down payment on our more than $100 million of unfunded liabilities, thereby improving our funding levels over time. Most of the other funds have been maintained, and we've tried to work hard to continue service levels. The proposed budget adds projections for not only the next fiscal year, but 2 years after that. So in your budget, you have 3-year, multi-year projected budgets. This is important because we're not just looking very short-sighted at the 12 months, but we are actually looking at a trajectory of city operations. This helps demonstrate the cause and effect for the policy decisions you guys make. It's one of the things I promised when I took over as city manager was to give you those multi-year budget projections. We have delivered on that promise. That is a quick overview of the proposed budget. I look forward to fielding your questions at the budget work session, in case anyone has a quick question now, but anything too in-depth we can do then.
I don't have any questions, but I have Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Ashford.
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment. But just concern, I know you mentioned several comments when you talked about the early retirement incentives, and you used a lot of things, but I would like to think that the early retirement incentive include people and their positioning. That means a lot to us, you know, not to have to lay someone off, but it's all about the people. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then also I had another concern with the code enforcement being put over in the planning department. You know, is that really going to make that much of a grand difference to put that police officer back on the street?
Yes, it will. I think every additional police officer right now in our police department is needed. Mm-hmm. This will allow us to essentially put an officer on the street at a lateral cost, so there's no additional cost because the police officer is already on our staff. And by moving it into the planning division, we can share the leadership. This is how other communities do it. It can be done. Is it ideal for code enforcement? Probably not. But financially, this is what we have to do, to put more officers on the streets and to make our code enforcement sustainable. When the code enforcement division was created, there was no funding source put in place. It was immediately deficit spending. So code enforcement was created, more than $300,000 expense, and it was never really spelled out how we would pay for it. So we have to look at sustaining that operations, and doing that through the planning division, the planning department is the most viable option.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the investment that we put in there and the headaches that we had behind that to make that what we are striving for that to be.
And
So I
that's,
didn't want to decrease that, and I'm well aware that we need, officers, everybody need officers on the street or whatever, but I just an uncomfortable fit there.
the current structure, and I will say Lieutenant Kuhn has done a marvelous job of building that department from the ground up. Not only building the department, but also training our inspectors, developing the processes and procedures that help that division operate smoothly and efficiently. And those processes and procedures will transfer over through their move to the planning department. So the current processes and procedures we have in place will stay in place. The only thing that will differentiate is the leadership.
And that's a big thing, leadership. It has to have a head to
Absolutely.
know where we're going. And then also, and lastly, so with your highlights you have here, so what's your drop dead? Where are you trying to go with this? What's the number? What's the number you're trying to get at?
Well, I think we need to reduce more than $1 million in expenditures. My concern is not the next 12 months, my concern is the next 24 to 36 months. Our growing unfunded liabilities, the annual service to those unfunded liabilities will grow drastically in the next 24 months. This is a proactive budget to begin shrinking the size of government and bringing our expenditures in line with our revenue. The reality is, for the last 4 years, we have used fund balances or subsidies from the land purchase fund to balance the budget. And that's not sustainable. And so how do we close that gap? And then how do we further shrink the cost of government so that we can account for the coming bills of the unfunded liabilities, which will be coming in the next 12 to 24 months. And so what this is a proactive approach to begin implementing solutions today so that we're not in crisis mode 24 or 36 months down the road. So that's one of the things we like to do is, with the multi-year budget projections, you're able to see where we're going. And with this budget, you can see that without capital improvements, operationally, we are solvent for the next 36 months if we take these changes in place. Now, there's a lot of capital improvements factored in, and as we address those capital projects moving forward, we will need to find dedicated funding sources, whether that be through grants or additional funding means. But operationally, with this budget in place, with the restructuring that we propose, we can essentially head off the headwinds in the future. So I'm really looking 24, 36 months down the road, looking at the growing ARC payment, grew by $300,000 last year. In the next 24 to 36 months, we anticipate that our ARC payment will grow by more than $1 million. And so we want to address it today when we have time to have a healthy discussion on policy options and solutions rather than be pigeonholed 36 months down the road. Because the longer we wait, the fewer our options and our solutions available to us become.
Yeah, I realize we have to position ourselves to move forward, but I think we need to be really concerned and really like an emergency about the current state that we are, and the desired state where you want to go. I didn't hear anything about, a revenue stream. We can cut all day. Okay, but on this side, the revenue stream, what are you hoping to bring in here to help with that general fund balance going forward? You want us to take care of all these unfunded liabilities, to catch ahead, to save for what we don't even know if we're going to be here tomorrow. But we want to do that, and I can understand that, So I can't wait till next.
Yeah, pretty much
to the
my
budget
answer to that is I play the cards we're dealt, and the reality is that revenue has been stagnant, growing at about 1.6, maybe 2% in a good year, and expenditures are growing much more rapid than that.
Right.
And our unfunded liabilities are growing about 5 to 8% annually in our payment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we hope that growth will occur,
Mm-hmm.
But we're also realistic that if we don't find a way to balance our budget and protect our core services, that could be a hindrance to economic development.
Yeah.
So if I could plant a money tree, that's what we're looking for, but
No, absolutely. It's nothing about a money tree. It's all about strategy, James, and wisdom behind the strategy. I'm not saying that, but I'm just not in a bucket list or something that, to go gun hole over on here when we don't have to. I mean, there's two kind of people, and those that tear down, those that build up. You're actually trying to build up, and we're trying to support that building up of the city of Port Huron. But I just want to make sure that we're prudent in our approach.
Yes.
That's all.
And there are some exciting developments going around town. That is what is so hopeful, is we are seeing millions and millions of dollars of private investment throughout our community. You're seeing new hotels pop up, new restaurants. You're seeing our housing values are rising at not a fast rate, but a healthy and steady rate. It's showing the market is rebounding, our housing stock is turning over. So if you look at a broader picture of our community, beyond just a city budget, there's a lot of positive economic trends taking place. And so we are hopeful that those headwinds, those tailwinds will get in our sail and push us forward. But we also have to be conservative moving forward with a budget that reflects the realities of today. As we move forward with the multi-year projections, I'm hopeful, and I think you will be right, that revenues in 24 to 36 months will pick up. The concerns we have is as developments come online and as the economy rebounds, there's often a lag before we see that in our revenues. So a 24 to 36 months lag. And so as we rebound, we need to make sure that we can fight through that lag. And I think this is the last 24 to 36 months. I honestly believe this is the bottom. And I believe that after this budget and next year's budget, that we will be talking about how do we build on public services. But until that revenue growth catches up with us, we have to be very physically conservative in how we budget. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to give you budget projections which are too optimistic, and then later on in the year have to come back and say, the revenue projections we used really aren't coming to fruition, we're going to have to cut midway. And one of the nice things is about being proactive, as you guys have directed me to be, is we have tools and maneuvering abilities today to help ease through this process without hurting families. I worry about our workers. They have, they have families, they have children, and that's why we're using buyouts instead of layoffs. To the attrition that's coming, it works. It needs to be sped up. This is a tool that other communities and businesses have used to help speed up that process to get through a low point, and that's where we're at. So the budget was done in an extremely strategic manner. The projections were done in a realistic approach so that you generally had a viable tool here to use in making decisions. I wanted to give you the best resources you had to make decisions. And I think the information we were able to pull together, a testament to the hard work of our department heads and our finance team, you have those tools.
I think you did a good job, but it's still, no matter how good the job is, there should be questions and there should be challenges.
Absolutely.
And we're going to hold you accountable for getting us where we need to go.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Mira.
Oh, you are welcome. I think we are obviously tonight just scheduling a public hearing, and we have a public hearing on May 11th, and then on May 13th at 6 p.m. we will have our workshop, at which time then we can certainly dissect what has been proposed by the city administration, Mr. Freed and the staff, and certainly are probably encouraged. I would encourage everybody to come to that meeting with questions, and not only, maybe you don't like something, but come with maybe an alternate solution that you think might work. And I do believe that there's, in some of these cases, other things that could work that we will talk about, and obviously we as a council need to decide. That's our decision. It's up to Mr. Freed and the staff to bring us a balanced budget as they propose it, and then we need to spend the time working on it and looking it over and asking questions and contributing what we think, and that would be on the 13th, so.
And we are more than welcome. If you have a question that you would like us to vet before that meeting to get you the information, myself and Ed Brennan are available for you. If you have a policy solution that you would like to see the numbers run, we can do that for you. If you have an idea, we can run those numbers and run those scenarios to show you what that would look like. This is a healthy discussion. I have fulfilled my charter obligations. I have submitted a budget to you, and now this becomes your budget process. And so we look forward to assisting you as you make your way through this.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. The other thing is, the budget in its entirety will be, normally we used to have books, but I think in the last year or so, we've had it submitted to us electronically, so I assume that's going to be done in a short manner, right?
I believe it's already in your inbox.
Oh, is that really?
Last
Okay.
Friday.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much. So we do need to vote on actually scheduling the public hearing for May 11th.
So,
We already have the
you
motion
have it.
and the
It's on the
second. We
floor.
just need to do it unless somebody has further discussion. We will take the vote on scheduling the public hearing.
what are you asking for?
Just a vote on scheduling the public
okay.
hearing, that's all. And we've already had the motion and the second, so.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Amos.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Number 2 under resolutions, please.
Is authorizing the submission of a Transportation Economic Development Fund grant application to Michigan Department of Transportation for making road improvements on 20th Street between Beard Street and Dove Street.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz. Is there discussion?
Yes, Mayor Rep, is there an amount or a range on this grant, or is it just a holistic?
I think we're going to get an answer from Mr. Clegg.
Mayor Rep and City Council members, we estimate this project will come in at around $970,000. It's included in our budget request for this year. We would not recommend proceeding with the project unless we get the grant funding. The grant funding would, the estimated amount of the grant would be about $755,000. Unfortunately, out of the 134 miles of roadway we have in Port Huron, there's only about 16 to 17 miles of roadway that's eligible for federal funding. So we have to identify needs. We have a very unique situation in that we have a local business that's in our area, the Iceman Group. They're investing a significant amount of money, hiring new employees. They've been before you before. And this is an opportunity for us to capture grant funds because of the investment they're making in our community.
Okay, is this a Tiger grant, federal funding?
No.
Oh, this is something different.
This is the
Tyler,
Transportation Economic
Transportation.
Development Fund. This is the same source of funding we use to improve Harker Street when as the county went forward with the improvements at the convention center. Here we have private investment. We have an investment of someone putting in factory improvements and hiring new employees. We're using that same source of funding to go forward. Another thing about this is we've done it jointly with the County Road Commission, St. Clair County Road Commission, that will give us, they have a section of roadway that they would like to do, and that joint effort will also help us in the scoring to potentially get these funds.
Good, okay. Well, good luck for us on this. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor Rep.
Mayor Rep?
Yes, Councilmember
Yeah,
Harris.
just one question. What are the perspectives of this? You know, driving out, looking at 20th Street, it's quite a wide highway, not highway, but access to all the different shops and things there. Is there something unique that we're going to do here to?
No, it's going to be a concrete panel replacement project. We've done this on Dove. You've maybe seen these projects in the past, and in other areas within the industrial park. Because of the unique nature of the park, the size of the vehicles we're trying to service, and the comings and going of those semis, and the weight of those vehicles, going to that kind of cross-section with those kind of pavement widths are important to make certain they can have good access to our industrial complex.
Are we going to be able to get this started while we have a transit plant in the city of Port Huron? I know on Dove Street, it was very convenient because we already had a concrete batch plant in Port Huron.
Well, the contractors will be, contractors are competitive. In that particular case, there happened to be a batch plant, but you can also go to existing ready-mix plants. There's a lot of different options. I think that the important piece of this is to strike while the iron's hot. While we have private investment going on in our community, we should look for this opportunity and make certain we're serving that new investment well.
Right.
Any other questions for Mr. Clegg? Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Amos.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, we'll move on to item 3.
Is authorizing the submission of a local bridge program grant application to the State of Michigan Department of Transportation for preventive maintenance funding for the 10th and 7th Street bridges.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Ruiz. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rep,
Yes, Councilmember Amos.
what is the amount of that grant?
Mayor Rep and council members, we're currently putting together our estimates on this application. We do know that the 10th Street Bridge is coming to a point that it needs to be repainted. The cost to repaint that structure is about $1.2 million. The way this grant process works with local bridge funding, and by the way, this is 95% of construction cost funding, as opposed to the usual 80-20 construction cost funding. Why is this unique? Because of the local bridge program in the state of Michigan. The state kicks in 15% of the cost of the project, the feds kick in 80% of the cost of the project, so the city only has to kick in 5% of the cost of the project. But in this program, we are actually submitting applications for work that will be done no sooner than the winter of 2018-2019. It's a 3-year in advance application. There's an arduous process where we have to go through a regional bridge council evaluation where other peers will evaluate our proposal. Then it goes to a statewide local bridge advisory board, which I've served on since its inception. And then if those committees approve our application, then the funds would not be available until winter of 18-19. We will have 3 years to expend those dollars, which means the last year we could expend those dollars would be 21-22. So to answer your question, we're still putting the package together. I think rough numbers, we're looking in the $2 to $2.5 million range. Bastille bridges are very expensive. Movable bridges are very expensive to maintain and repair. And we're very fortunate that this type of funding is available. It's very competitive. That committee has distributed about $9 to $10 million a year, and the applications usually total about $25 to $30 million a year. So it's very competitive funding. We'll get in the mix. If we don't get it this time, we'll keep fighting for it.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Clark? Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there's no other discussion, we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Amos.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Mayor Rupp.
Yes. Item 4.
Is approving the agreement with the National Recreation and Park Association for a $10,000 grant to support out-of-school time programs for children during the summer months as part of a partnership with the Port Huron Area School District.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Amos. Is there discussion? I guess I have a question. If you're applying for this grant, if we don't get it, what happens then? Is the program not viable, or is it something that we're funding else a different way, or what?
Mayor and City Council, this particular grant, we've already received.
Oh, you have already
Yes.
received it, so you're applying after the fact.
Well, we already applied,
Yeah.
but this is to accept the agreement
Oh,
and to
okay.
accept the monies for the.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
okay.
I was thinking.
But while I am here, I would, again, and I know I did this last year, but I'd like to say it again, writing grants is a very long process.
Yes.
And Martha Navarro wrote this for us again this year, and we got funding for it last year. And she charges the city nothing to do it, and I just want to, again, express my appreciation because a lot of kids are going to be served by this grant and throughout the city at a lot of different locations. And my staff person in the office, Tony, who administers the grant all year, I just really think, these things are hard to get and very competitive. It's a national grant, so thank you to Martha Navarro for doing this for us, so.
Does it cover the whole program, then?
Actually, this is just a portion of it. This is going to be covering a program we call Recess, which is going to be a about 6 different programs in the schools. So this is just one donation of many. We've already received $20,000 of individual donations for it as well. So when we're all done, we will be covering the cost of all those programs within that. And that's feeding kids, teaching them fitness, having them out on the playgrounds, working with the police department and the community development department, doing different projects in neighborhoods, and basically just keeping kids active and not looking at a screen all summer, and maybe doing some swimming. And so, yeah, I think very important things. A lot of kids don't eat in the summer, so we provide 12 different locations where they can have lunch. So this is another outreach to that program, so.
Is there any requirement that they have to meet in order to participate?
They just need to be under 18 years old, and that's our partnership with the Port Huron Area School District. They do that whole program for us. We just give them the site locations, and they bring the food to those locations for the kids.
I know it's a great program. You do a great job with it. So
Yeah.
I think, Councilmember Ashford, do you have a
Yeah.
question?
Was it last year we first did this, last year?
Yes.
Was that the first time?
Yep.
Okay, any feedback from the success of the program?
We had a lot of people participate.
What do you
know.
call a lot of people, specifically about how many
I don't
people?
know I don't have the exact numbers of how many. And
Just in a ballpark sense, did we have great?
I know that we fed over 500 kids last year.
Well, that's
at least.
good,
Yeah.
that's good, that's, all right.
And this was kind of set up a little bit differently than last year because we're trying to reach out to more schools this year. And thanks to working with the school district, we've really partnered with them more than we ever have,
So
so.
what are you gonna do different?
We are actually going to be in the schools after summer school, and we'll be doing recreation opportunities in the afternoon at 5 different locations. And then, as I talked about the neighborhood time to play, we'll be at Woodrow and Harrison doing community outreach there. We'll be at Garfield, Roosevelt, Cleveland, doing stuff after summer school. And we'll be at Keewatin and Sanborn Park doing outreach there as well. Different, it can be anywhere from crafts or sports or swimming, all different things. But
So your outreach will perhaps bring
Yeah.
in more.
we're finding that it's
Kids.
difficult for kids to get to the center or to the site, so we need to be out into the community. So this program will provide that. It's
Thank
just
you.
difficult for kids to get rides, it seems as if, so.
Okay, thanks, Nancy.
Yes, the Councilmember
Thank you for
Ruiz.
acknowledging Martha Navarro. She's one talented woman, and it
Yes.
is hard to do any grant writing, and she, I bet for over 35 years, has contributed through grant writing and accumulated a lot of money for the Port Huron Area School District, and obviously the tie-in with the city, so thank you
Yeah,
for doing
it takes
that.
a lot of work, and she doesn't charge us anything, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very good.
Mayor Rep,
Yes, Councilmember.
I was able to view the program last year, and I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. Definitely an amazing program out in the Delhut community on the south end of town, where those kids really have nothing to do when they're off of school, and they had a lot to do. Your city rec employees were just amazing and just really wowed me, so thank you again.
Thank you. There's no other discussion, we will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Move on to item 5.
Is accepting grant funds and approving the grant project agreement with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in the amount of $295,000 to assist with the Lakeside Park redevelopment project.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Harris, is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. I understand you have a map you want to show us before we ask any questions? Thanks.
Mayor and City Council, this is the agreement. I know we've heard that we've been awarded this grant, but this is the agreement for the grant. This is some very conceptual and early planning at this time, but we've talked to our consultant to kind of show what we're looking at. If you look at the little walkway going out to the beach there, I should have a little pointer, but that's going to, that'll be a walkway for people of all abilities to get to the lakefront. If you look down where the little box is, that's the existing building. That's kind of some passive area where you can sit in the shade and look at the lake. We wanted to kind of open up the lake so you could kind of see it better. And the big rectangle there is the new concession and restroom facility, and the circle will be the new splash pad. Now, that is not covered under this grant. That was, we received private donations for that and have fully funded that as phase one of the project. I've had a lot of questions about, well, when's it going to be here? Because I know we've been working on this for some time now. So I did want to just announce to people that obviously we don't want to disrupt the park in the middle of the summer. So September 9th, once it shuts down, we will, with obviously bringing plans and approval, we will hope to start then and hope that things are open for next year. I mean, we should be honored to know that this project scored the highest in the state. That's how much the DNR thought of this piece of property. There's hundreds. It's a very competitive grant process. Obviously, we didn't get it the first year. And so we got it this year, and I just think it really speaks towards what a jewel this property is, that it was #1 in the state of Michigan. So this is just some preliminary plans. Just kind of want to let everybody know where we are. Like I said, I've had a lot of people asking when, where, what's happening. So I wanted to kind of, obviously after the approval, or once we approve this tonight, this is what we're kind of looking at starting. So.
Well, it's certainly a great project, and I think it's really going to enhance the park. Is there any questions from council? Another good job done. Thank you. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rupp?
Yes, and we'll move on to item 6.
It's approving the joint agreement with the MEDC, the city, and the Local Development Finance Authority, and the amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding regarding the St. Clair County Innovation and Technology Smart Zone.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Ruiz, is there discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rupp?
Yes. Item 7.
Is approving the termination of the intermunicipal sanitary sewer service agreement entered into with the city of Marysville on March 27, 2000, as Marysville has constructed their own pumping station to replace the services previously provided by Port Huron.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Second, okay. Councilmember Harris. Is there discussion?
How much, what's the dollar amount that we're?
It will cost our sewer, our wastewater revenue about $94,000 a year. We had originally discovered this during the sewer separation project. We had realized that for essentially all the years prior, Marysville had been dumping raw sewage into our system without paying us for it. And so this was an agreement in place until they constructed their own facility. They constructed that facility for about the cost of $750,000.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Amos?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Rupp?
Yes, that concludes the regular agenda. We have one announcement, the 2015 Public Safety and Civilian Awards Recognition Ceremony will be held on Tuesday, May 12th in the City Council chambers at 6 p.m. Is there anything else to come before the council? Councilmember Harris.
I just like to add an announcement. We had a discussion here, a presentation earlier in the meeting. I think people ought to know that we don't have any national sponsor for the NLC's food campaign this year. So the effort is upon you and me and your friends to get those food donations out there for the NALC food drive or the food drive. And we really appreciate what you do. You probably won't get a notice reminding you of the date, so spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved.
Everybody did. Meeting adjourned. Just a minute.